Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch Harper and Nate Slack with you. Kyle Ireland will be back next week. He's coming back from Hawaii, but it's been a blast hanging out with you in the studio today, man, talking ball.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
We've been watching this Kansas State-Texas Tech game. Obviously, we're watching it closely because, one, BYU plays Texas Tech next week, but also with the tease from College Game Day today, if Texas Tech wins, it feels like we are going to see College Game Day in Lubbock next week. So I think we can all agree we want to see BYU play on the biggest stages possible. So in some respects, you don't want to say you're rooting for someone, but let's see Texas Tech get it done here. Texas Tech's up 9-7. This has been a crazy game. It started off with Kansas State up 7-0. There's 2 minutes left in the second quarter. It's a 2-minute timeout. Texas Tech settled for a field goal. Next possession for Kansas State, they fumble the football. What was it, on first down?
Yeah, first down.
Texas Tech recovers on inside the red zone. Score a touchdown 2 plays later. Then they missed the PAT. And dads everywhere watching the game are saying that PAT might come back to cost them. 9-7 with 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. Oklahoma State's still up on Kansas 7-3. And then one of BYU's best wins of the season takes a little bit of the hit. Arizona State knocks off Iowa State without Sam Leavitt, 24-19 in Ames. So 4-game skid for Iowa State. That offensive firepower that we saw early on against BYU, it was a total front. Iowa State did not show up today in tough weather conditions in Ames, but still, ASU showing some toughness going into the Midwest and getting a tough win without Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, I can't believe that one, because after seeing how Arizona State performed against Utah a few weeks ago without Sam Leavitt, I didn't think they had a chance.
I'm floored by that one, but hey, Kenny Dillingham, he gets his teams dialed in, man. They never seem to have a drop-off other than that Utah game. They're a super motivated program. It's a good win for ASU. Arizona, Colorado tonight, and then Utah and Cincinnati later tonight. Also, coming up on Monday, college basketball tips off, BYU and Villanova. We just talked to Mark Durant about that. How do you see this game playing out on Monday night, season opener for the most anticipated season in program history?
Really excited for it. I've got to admit, I'm still. It takes me a little bit to transition into basketball mode, just because football's 8-0, and you're thinking college football playoff rankings come out Tuesday, so football's always on the forefront of your mind. But I think they're going to play well. I think having the exhibition game at Nebraska is a spot where I feel like this can really benefit BYU. Not because it's going to be a road environment. I mean, I think BYU is going to have a lot more fans in Villanova, just because BYU always does really well in Vegas. But I think being in a spot where you're not in Provo and you're playing another power team in Villanova, I think it's going to be a good spot. I'm excited to see how BYU does. I could see them, kind of struggling out the gates, but I think Villanova could be in the same spot where you're playing a preseason top 10 team and the season's underway and you're excited. You're in Las Vegas, but I feel pretty good about BYU's chances there. Last I saw, they were a 7.5-point favorite, which is crazy to think about. BYU is a 7.5-point favorite over Villanova.
A great brand.
In a neutral court. So I think BYU's going to win the game. I think it's just a matter of by how much. And then it's just a matter of staying healthy and just seeing how things go throughout the rest of November.
I think BYU wins too. I think BYU will have the advantage on the glass. Talking with one of their insiders that covers Villanova, there's been some issues rebounding the basketball for Villanova, but you never know. With game ones, it's always a little bit of a filling out process. So I'm sure there'll be moments where it's not always perfection for BYU, but I just love the ability that we even saw in the exhibition from DeBonce of how he can just get you a bucket with ease. And that's something that's so nice for this team compared to the last, really in the history of BYU basketball, where you just got a guy that can easily get you a bucket to end a scoring drought. I feel pretty confident BYU is not going to be a team that has these lulls. Think back to, December, January, when BYU was going through a little bit of a rut early on in Big 12 play. They would go through these extended periods without a bucket. I don't think that's going to be a problem for this team. I think that offensively, this is going to be one of the best offenses in college basketball. And like Mark Durant, I do want to see improved defensive play, but I do believe they will have that this year. And I'm really optimistic about this team, but I think BYU has the edge on the glass. And, Villanova's got a completely new look roster, like many teams in college basketball. New head coach with Kevin Willard, who comes in from Maryland, brings in a roster that has 9 new guys. And according to Villanova people, that's a new world. They're not used to that. They're used to having program guys like Jalen Brunson's, Dante DiVincenzo's that just go through the ranks at Villanova. So it's a complete reset for Villanova, but I think BYU is the better team. And I'm also, I feel like we're just barely scratching the surface of what we've seen so far from Rob Wright. Mm-hmm. I think the exhibition games, he was on a minute restriction against Nebraska, against North Carolina, played pretty well, 12 points, 5 assists in 32 minutes. But I still feel like that guy's due for some big games this year, and wouldn't shock me if he goes off for a big performance against Villanova on Monday night in Vegas. But huge game. It's a doubleheader too, where the first game is the defending national champion Florida Gators against Arizona. So we get a chance to see a Big 12 team in action on Monday night, which is always tricky. Monday games are always tough for BYU because you get no Sunday practice and feel for the court, but BYU's not too stressed about that. So I think the Cougs get it done on Monday.
Yeah, I think so. Just a quick question. If BYU has the ball and the clock is running out, they need a bucket to win a game, who do you think gets the shot in that situation? Because Rob Wright can handle the ball really well. Richie Saunders had success last year. You got DeBanza. Where would you go?
I think it's DeBanza.
So.
I think he's the guy that he can rise up and elevate it over anyone, and he can get a bucket for you. I mean, I think you got a handful of options, where last year at this time, you didn't feel like you had a proven guy. This year, you've got 3 guys that absolutely, and to a lesser extent, Kennard Davis is that 4th guy. He was a prolific scorer at Southern Illinois in the Missouri Valley. So this is a loaded team, and we are going to have you covered throughout the year here on Cougar Sports Saturday, and we'll have BYU football coverage next week, extended pregame from Lubbock here on KSL News Radio.